for people who are trying to like just navigate, I'd say maybe start there. Start thinking about what makes you excited, because that was the thing. Like I got so excited to go to SoulCycle, like to the point where, you know, it was the best part of my week. Like you have to start paying attention to the things in your life that do that for you if you're really trying to like follow your passion in life and what makes you excited. Because like you could follow a lot of things for a check. You could follow a lot of things just for, I don't know, what people might think is cool. But like at the end of the day, like if you're passionate about it, like I truly think you're going to make it happen. And that's where like you just have to jump. I know it sounds so cliche and so easy because like, yes, I had to have my benefits figured out. I had to have all this stuff figured out. But like, I believe that if you want something bad enough, like you're going to figure it out and you kind of like almost have no choice.
Yeah. Because otherwise, you know, what is the alternative option? It's time for you to create your fate. Welcome to today's episode of Create Your Fate podcast. I am your host, life coach Meg Ellis, and I have a wonderful treat for y'all today. We have former educator plus SoulCycle instructor turned entrepreneur extraordinaire Kallie House is in the house. How are you, Kallie?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on today.
Oh my gosh. Thanks for coming on. I'm so excited. I always love talking to, I always love talking to other SoulCycle instructors. And I also love talking to other entrepreneurs. So I'm super excited for this conversation.
I'm very excited too.
Yeah. So you are in DC. Tell us give us a little background on you. Like, how'd you end up there? Are you from there? Give us your whole story.
Sure. Yeah. So currently I'm living in Arlington, Virginia, actually, but it's much easier for people to understand DC. I'm like 10 minutes outside of there.
Yeah.
We call it the DMV in this area, but a lot of people confuse that with the motor vehicle place that you go to.
Right.
So
nobody wants to go there.
Right. Nobody wants to go there. So it's like a whole fight that we've had with SoulCycle for so long for calling this place the DMV. And they're like, anyway, sidebar. I grew up about an hour away from DC, the city. I grew up in like a very small town in Maryland and went to college, honestly, not that far from there, and was a teacher back home, which I'm sure we might get into a little bit. And then discovered SoulCycle. And SoulCycle was about 45 minutes from where I lived in Bethesda, Maryland. So I would travel and take class there. And once I got into SoulCycle instructor training, like it was endgame. I knew I wanted to be in the DC market.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up here. So I moved here about 5 years ago. I lived in Bethesda a little bit. And then during the pandemic, moved to Virginia.
Got it. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And what was it about SoulCycle? Because you were teaching at the time. So tell us about, I guess, the life before SoulCycle. What did that look like?
You know, gosh, it's so hard it sounds so silly, but it was almost hard to remember what my life was like then because it was such a different life I was living.
Yeah.
So I was still living at home with my parents, which I am like all for. If you can do it and save the money and you have a good relationship, I'm like, milk that shit. Can I cuss?
Yes, you can say whatever you want on here.
Okay. And then, so I was a 5th grade teacher before I was a SoulCycle instructor. It's insane. And it took me a while to actually get my own classroom. So I was like doing like the subbing thing and like that was miserable. And then I finally got my own classroom. At the time I was doing influencing, like fitness influencing, which like kind of was like the start of being influencer life, whatever. And that's how I found SoulCycle. So it's pretty nuts. I was just teaching every day, 5th grade, and not really loving my life. I had crazy anxiety like every Sunday night before I went back to school. And kids don't deserve that. I didn't deserve that. I was way too young to be feeling that way. And I felt very trapped. And then I went to SoulCycle in New York and I was like, I want to make this my job. So I started riding once a week because it's all I could manage with my schedule.
Yeah.
And I guess you'd say the rest is history. I don't know how much further we're going to dive into that. But life before SoulCycle was a much slower pace, cookie cutter, like life I was living, I guess you'd say.
Yeah. And that's great for some people, right? They kind of, there's a lot of people who want that cookie cutter life. But it sounds like at some point in time you realize, I don't really want this cookie cutter life. Whoa, what would it be like? I mean, and also boutique fitness, you've been teaching for what? You said
almost 5 years, yeah.
5 years. 5 years ago, boutique fitness was not like a thing. It was still kind of up and coming. So, that's it's very interesting to leave something so stable, you know, especially teaching, education, into, okay, what does boutique fitness even look like? And what can I do with it to be successful with it? But so talk to me about these Sunday scaries that really led you to make this decision and this jump.
Yeah. So I will say I taught my own classroom for 2 full years. So my first year, I was already doing the whole fitness influencing thing, like on Instagram, before I even had my own classroom. So at that point, I was really starting to realize like my passion was starting to be in fitness. It's just like what made me happy, like what made me excited. And teaching was just kind of like paying the bills, I guess you'd say, but does it really? Because teachers get paid horribly.
It's paying some bills.
Yeah, I know. Like, but I was living at home, so I was fortunate.
Yeah.
But it would ruin my entire weekend. At the time, my boyfriend, he lived like an hour away from me, so I would only get to see him on the weekends, and it would pretty much ruin our entire Sunday because I would be so stressed about going back to work. And it wasn't just like what I was doing. It was just that I had this feeling that it was like wrong for me. And you know, I was very fortunate that I started making money on Instagram, and I felt like I had this cushion that once I started thinking about what is it I want to do, my whole first year, I didn't find SoulCycle. So my second year is when I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. And I like auditioned multiple times during like, I literally missed school picture day to take a train to New York to do my very first audition. And I had to lie about it.
Yeah. How'd that go? How'd the audition go? And how did lying to your job go?
Yeah. So I just was like not in my class picture, which, you know, it is what it is. And I knew that. And it was I was following my dream. So I went up, I took the train. It was like literally a 24-hour thing. And it was the first round. I don't know like how much we can talk about this, but it was the first round where they did the chorus line for auditions. So my experience, I think, was more seamless than I think people like right before me because they did the like group 1, then you make it to round 2. Like I didn't have to sit there for 4 hours through like
and watch everybody.
auditioning.
Yeah. So they bring you in and they basically assess like the whole group. Who can ride on beat? Let's start there. And then they say, okay, half y'all, you leave. And then the second people get to go actually be like, up on the stage. Yeah.
Yeah. So I made it to the second round, which was exciting. It was actually a very small group of us that made it to the second round. It was like maybe 20 of us. And what's so cool is I'm still friends with people from that audition who like aren't even SoulCycle instructors. But after that, I didn't get it, but they offered to put me in the Soul Recruit program. So what that means, which I don't think it exists anymore. I hope I'm not getting in trouble saying all this. But
we'll have Evelyn's coming on in a couple of weeks. She'll be fine with it.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, they saw potential in me, but I just like wasn't there yet, which honestly in my life worked better because I really had to figure that out with teaching. And then I basically gave them my schedule every week, and I was teaching for 3 months. So like from like April till the end of the school year, driving to DC right after school every day and taking a class. Like it was nuts what I was doing. And then auditions were that summer. Thought I was like golden, and I didn't get in, and I was devastated. And then I had a decision to make. You know, I was like, do I want to keep doing this, or do I, you know, want to pursue something else? And at the time, I had already put in my leave of absence. It's so crazy. I literally was like a retired teacher at like 26.
That's nice. That must feel good to say. I retired at 26.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I at the end of the year, I really thought I was going to get in the summer auditions. And so at the end of the school year, I talked to my family, I talked to my boyfriend, talked to myself, and I was just like, I have enough money that I'm making on Instagram. This is where I had the like insane privilege to do this because I was making that extra cushion. I knew that I could, what's the word I'm looking for? I knew that I could sustain the life I was like living at the time to get me to getting into training in the fall. And then I didn't get into training in the fall. So it was an interesting time.
And I'll back it up just to say,
sorry.
No. If people, and again, I'm like, I don't know how much of this we can share, but whatever. To go train at SoulCycle, you literally had, at the time, you had to pick up your whole life and move to New York for 3 months. And it was like, you're on your own, kid, kind of thing. Like they pay you a little bit of money for your training hours. But other than that, you are on your own for how you get there, how you live. all expenses are up to you. So saving up a bunch of money to be able to do that, yeah, that's a big deal. I mean, I did the same thing and was lucky enough to have friends who lived in the city. So I just stayed with them, and that otherwise I would have never been able to do that. But so yeah, you're planning, okay, this is perfect timing. I can be gone from my job, take this leave of absence, be gone for a couple months, and then womp. Oh.
Yep.
So where are you at now? Like, how are you feeling?
So that was August. And I already wasn't going back for the fall school year. Like I already put in all that stuff. Like, and yeah, I definitely put all my eggs in that basket, but also most things were leading me towards thinking that that was going to be the case. And, sometimes timing just isn't right. And I had a really good support system down here with the DC instructors who really helped me out. And they were just like, right now, like we maybe don't need somebody casting wise like you. And I just had to make the decision, like, is it something I really want, or is this just like not right for me? And it's so silly, but the day I was still in New York when I found out I didn't get it, I was literally devastated. And I went and took Tramel's class. If people listening like know SoulCycle, Tramel's like amazing.
Amazing.
And he's the reason I started Soul in general, because he's the first person I ever rode with. And I was like, I was booked into his class already before I was leaving town. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go take Tramel, because if anything's going to give me the answer, it's literally riding in his class. So I went, and like literally within the first song, I was like, yeah, I'm meant to do this. Like they fucked up and I'm going to do it again. And soul recruits all out the door. Like luckily, I knew all these people from riding so much for the past 3 months that most people would like help me out and like guess me into their class. But it just switched in my brain of like, now it's just for me to prove that like, this is what I should be doing. And then I auditioned time 3 that November and got it.
Awesome. 3rd time's a charm.
Yeah.
And most people, I think, audition 4 times is what I hear is the average.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know if that's actual fact-based fact, but I always heard it on average, most people audition 4 times. So you saved yourself, under
How many
that
times did you audition? I'm just curious.
I actually got it on the first try, but I will say it was because Houston was in dire need of instructors, right? I think they honestly make you audition multiple times just to see if you'll come back and you're dedicated to them.
It's like a real test, I think. So I'm happy I did it. I'm happy I went back, obviously. Here we are.
Right.
But.
Yeah. I honestly do think it's a test that they do that. But Houston, like, I think we had 2 studios at the time, and all these instructors were leaving. The main girl, Kat, who's amazing, and she was like my Tramel, where I'm like, oh my God, Kat's amazing. She was going on maternity leave. They had nobody, and I had already taught for I think 5 years at that time, so
Wow.
it worked out. But yeah, so when you auditioned in November, you're not taking a leave of absence in January, are you? Or how did that all work out?
No, so basically the June that the school year ended, I approached my principal and was like, I'm not returning next year. I have this opportunity. And I basically played it as if I already got the SoulCycle job, because nobody from where I'm from even knows what SoulCycle is.
Right. They're like, what? You're going to ride bikes? Okay.
Yeah. They're like, for a living. And I'm like, it's a long story. Anyway, so I had to put it in for the following school year.
Okay, so the whole year, not like just one little semester. Okay.
Yeah, so I put it because I was like banking on like that was going to be my job. So, definitely when the new year started, I was very grateful. So I auditioned November, found out December, and training started in February. So I had like that little cushion of time. But finally it was going to be like on track for where I thought I was going to be like 6 months prior.
Right. Isn't that always so funny when you look back? And it's funny, I was actually just talking to one of my friends who is going to be into the next round of auditions.
Very cool.
And he auditioned before, and then, things happened with training and COVID and all this like messy stuff. And I was actually describing a situation that I was recently in with SoulCycle. And I was like, whatever, everything always works out for my highest good. Like, it's always perfect timing. And he's like, wait, do you really believe that? Because he's now going to audition for SoulCycle and train. I'm like, yeah. I was like, I gotta go record this podcast. But like, long story short, yes, it does. Like, you'll be fine. Like, it really does. And you think about even the relationships you made and the timing of your training, it was really meant for you. And how would your experience be so different if you had done that 6 months earlier,
I know. I totally agree. I think timing is everything. I mean, especially in this job, but I think timing is everything in life. I know it sounds so cliche and so silly, but I don't think I'd be where I am if I did get into the group 6 months before, because I think I really had to prove to myself how bad I wanted it. And not only that, but like people in my life, to Soul Cycle, to whoever, that it just made it so much better when I got it, because I knew that like I really had to work for it, and I really had to like go inside and be like, is this what I want to be doing? Which I think, like you said, goes back to like them testing people to come back more than once. So yeah, no, I trust the timing of everything. And like, I loved my group so much. And I actually have really good relationships with the group before me who I would have been in with, but I think it all works out. And now I have people from both groups that I love, you know?
Yeah. It's like you got double,
Yeah,
double,
I know.
double of what you wanted. But, I've got like so many questions. Let's back it up to, because I know there's so many people out there who your story resonates with where, this doesn't feel right for me. Like teaching did not feel right for you. And they don't know what is right for them, but it's like, I don't know where I want to go, but I just know that this is not it. Right?
Yeah.
What advice would you have for them to even find out what is for them and how to make a move?
It's funny because I get this, or I used to get this question a lot when I first like made the leap. And the biggest thing for me was figuring out what I didn't want to do. And I don't know if that's like good advice or whatever advice to somebody, but I like started thinking about, okay, I want to be in fitness. That's where I like knew I wanted to go, but I had no clue what I wanted to do in fitness. And then I slowly started eliminating, well, like, I don't want to be a personal trainer. Like that would not make me happy. And then I started taking this class at the gym called Body Pump. It's like, there's
I used to love Body Pump. I'm telling you, I had like back muscles.
Body Pump was like my favorite thing to do. I did it twice a week. I loved my instructor. I'm still honestly sad that I don't do it, but I live too far away. However, I was like, oh my gosh, this would be so fun. But like, that's not a full-time job. Like I was trying to make it my full-time job. And I really started thinking, I'm like, and at the time I also like doing like the body combat. So I like boxing. So I was like, do I want to be a boxing instructor? And then I was like, that doesn't exist down here. So how am I going to do that? I don't want to do yoga. There were a lot of things I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
And it took me taking Soul Cycle to be like, wait, it's to the beat of the music. Like I hate cardio, but like, I like this version of cardio. And it just felt like, and then I started like asking around and I was like, wait, like this can be your full-time job. Like this is nuts. So that's kind of like the way I did. I kind of went backwards instead of being like, this is what I want to do. I kind of started thinking about all the things I didn't want to do, which led me to like the very small amount of things that maybe I could do.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I want full-time, I want group fitness, and I want the music to be an important part of it. So that's what I did. But for people who are trying to like just navigate, I'd say maybe start there. Start thinking about what makes you excited, because that was the thing. Like I got so excited to go to Soul Cycle, like to the point where, it was the best part of my week. Like you have to start paying attention to the things in your life that do that for you if you're really trying to like follow your passion in life and what makes you excited. Because like you could follow a lot of things for a check. You could follow a lot of things just for, I don't know, what people might think is cool. But like at the end of the day, like if you're passionate about it, like I truly think you're going to make it happen. And that's where like you just have to jump. I know it sounds so cliche and so easy because like, yes, I had to have my benefits figured out. I had to have all this stuff figured out. But like, I believe that if you want something bad enough, like you're going to figure it out and you kind of like almost have no choice.
Yeah. Because otherwise, what is the alternative option? It's like, oh my gosh, I was the same way. I was a dental hygienist actually for way too long. It was gross, but it was safe. It was secure. But I knew, okay, I'm not meant to do this forever.
Yeah.
But, making that jump is scary. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose all of these things, right? A good salary and benefits and all these things, stability, security, an actual job that people think is a job, because riding bikes, like try explaining that to your parents. They're like, wait, what do you do? And, every day just keeps getting like more miserable and miserable and miserable to the point where I would sit there and be like 11 a.m. like, oh my gosh, I cannot stay here any longer. So your time actually gets more miserable the longer you stay in something that is not for you. And it becomes quite unbearable, you know?
Yeah, totally. And like you said with the safety, like it was definitely, and I'm sure you know the same thing too, like even if you get into SoulCycle training, that doesn't guarantee that you still get the job. Like it's kind of nuts. You go through the 8 or 10 weeks or whatever it is, and like you could still fail. So, you know, that's also the gamble too that I'm having to explain to my parents, like, oh, by the way, like I'm moving to New York. I'm paying to live there for 2 months. And at the end, I still might not get it. Like, and they're, you know, like that's crazy. And like, talk about like job security. You're like, what? But I totally get what you're saying, because I would feel that way with teaching too, you know, and I always look back and like, I loved my kids. Like, I would much rather just like talk to them. I worked at like a Title I school. So, you know, I had kids that didn't have like the best home lives. So like almost they never missed school. And I just like thought it was more fun to just like sit and like hang out with them, and like obviously they would learn and stuff, but it was I like making lesson plans, like all that stuff. Like it's really easy to want to like phone it in, and unfortunately or fortunately, teaching is a job where you just like really can't do that.
You have to
like
be
you have
very
to be on
there
all day long.
It's a lot of energy exchange with all those kids, and kids' energy is
graders,
like,
I mean, fifth graders now, what they're
the
exposed to,
hormones.
what they know. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I know.
So,
when I look back, I'm like, I swear I did not look like that in 5th grade. I was like,
no.
What?
Social media for sure.
Yeah,
but
it's got to be.
yeah, unbearable days. Like once you start feeling that way, you have to start assessing what is going to be better for your life. Because I started sitting there and I was like, how old was I at the time? I was like 25, 26. And I was just like, whoa, I am way too young to be this miserable. Like I would look at people that I worked with who were miserable and I'd be like, so I can change this whenever I want. Like, why not just do it? I just have to be brave enough to do it.
Yeah. That's an interesting concept, like brave enough to do what's right for you, right? And I think that it's a big thing, because you have to be brave to overcome all that fear that keeps you stuck in what is not right for you, you know? And honestly, it doesn't even have to be this thing that you like Sunday scaries you hate doing. I'm going to bring in the story that we talked about, your old social media page, right?
Oh yeah.
Which that was thriving, right? It was great. But you at some point said, you know what, this is not right for me anymore. So walk us through that transition of, you know, not even leaving something that's terrible and miserable, but just something that you know is, hey, this is just not right for me anymore.
Yeah. So like I said, I used to do BBG, for anybody listening, if you know what that Kayla Tsines Bikini Body Guide.
Yes, I love her.
And so I somehow, through posting and all this stuff, because it was just so much easier back then with the algorithm to grow and to like tag and hashtags and all this stuff. And I somehow just grew my Instagram. It was nuts, crazy. I didn't even know that was possible, and was making money off of it. Had so many great friends. It's why I found SoulCycle. And over time, like I reached like over 100,000 followers, which is obviously like very exciting and very cool. Opens a lot of doors. But you know, over time, I will say, like, obviously, like brands also started getting smart. Like it's not about the followers, it's about the engagement. And over time, my engagement just like went to shit. And that was a lot for me. I wish I could sit here and be like, I'm such a big person that it didn't bother me, but like it obviously bothered me, because at once I was like thriving and then it was really difficult.
Yeah, and you're like, what happened? Like, what's wrong with me?
Right. I always felt like I was like playing catch up or trying to like do what other people were doing. And I was just like, this is not serving me. This is not making me happy. It was like, oh my gosh, what am I posting today? Or, oh my, like I get to the end of the day and be like, I didn't post today. Like, oh no. And you just like see the followers going down or like the likes. And then I was telling you, when I did work with brands, I would get so much anxiety about sending them my, gosh, I haven't done it in so long. I can't even think about what the
metrics
word is.
Or
yeah, like all of my
analytics, like
analytics. Oh my gosh, I literally completely forgot what it was. The analytics, like after that, like we already agreed, they already like knew what my engagement was, but just that was just too much for me. And I am somebody who like, I like to think I'm a pretty creative person. So like I liked using Instagram as a creative outlet, creating content, like all that stuff, and also helping people. Like I loved doing that, but it got to a point where social media changed, Instagram changed, where it was more about like no one cared about long captions, no one cared about like all the details of your life.
Yeah.
And that shift for where I was just wasn't good. Sorry, this is a really roundabout way of getting here,
No,
but
good.
basically,
This is the juice. Keep going.
yeah. But basically, I was thinking about it hard for a few months, and I was like, what if I just restarted a brand new Instagram and just let this one be after my last brand deal, because it just mentally was so draining. And you know, the validation you need from social media, like whether you think you say you need it or not, like people pay attention to how many likes they get. They pay attention to how many comments they get.
Honestly, I can't remember. It's like stepping on a scale kind of thing. Like I can't remember the last time I really felt good about looking at Instagram, you know, likes and views, or like, it's like you step on that scale, and even if it's that number that you thought was good, you're like, oh, well, now on to the next thing, you know, like I wish it was
that's
this.
the thing. I was just never satisfied. And, you know, I don't know what it was. I just always would feel like embarrassed. I'd be like, oh my God, someone's going to stumble on my page and see like I have 100K, but like I'm getting like 400 likes. They must be like, she bought her followers, which like not the case. But like that was just draining me in a way that I was like, I'm too old to be dealing with this. And also like I can start a new one and have fresh, like, you know, however I did that for like 6 years. Like you get a lot of bots, you get a lot of weird shit coming your way. Like I just needed a reset.
A lot of trolls.
And I was fortunate to not have a lot of like negative, you know, backlash on my Instagram, which is nice. But a lot of people were like, Kallie, that's crazy. Like you have so many followers. What are you doing? Like so many, like a lot of people were just like, that would open so many doors. Like who cares? Like if your engagement sucks. And I was like, well, I care. And like, what if I start a new Instagram? I get like however many followers, and like I genuinely want to work with a brand. They'll work with somebody who has like 5K if they're, you know, a good person, that they have a good,
and they care about
audience.
they care about their topics and their audience.
I felt lost in what I was doing. And so I just said, screw it. And I literally have like 6 Instagrams, honestly, at this point. But
we'll make sure we tag the right one.
Yeah. I don't know if I answered anything that you're saying. It was just, it was not serving me. And it was obviously a very big deal to let that go, because it was a way I was making money. But towards the end of it, to be honest, like they weren't my management team. Like they were amazing. But the brands I was working with, they were paying well, but like it's not something like on the daily I'd be like, yeah, I really want to share this. And it just didn't feel good anymore.
Yeah, like it wasn't authentic to.
Yeah, I would never say that I wasn't being authentic, because I feel like I was always being myself. I feel like I always have to like stress that to people. It's just like it wasn't like serving me in a way that it used to.
Yeah.
In a positive way at all anymore. It was just all anxiety, all stress. And I was like, this isn't worth it.
Right.
You know?
And at one point it was, right?
Right.
And that's great. And it's okay to leave something that is still, you know, great and thriving, but it's okay if it's also like no longer right for you.
Yeah.
You know,
it's funny you say that. I feel like I'm at like a weird part of my life, just like thinking about that all the time. And I feel like a lot of my friends, I don't know if it's like we're in like a season of change right now, but I feel like a lot of people in my life are talking about that. They're just like, just because it was great for you for the time being doesn't always mean like it's forever, you know? And you have to be okay with like leaving it in that space.
Right.
Which
like,
I am.
Things are seasonal, and knowing when to cut them off is, I mean, personally, I'm definitely someone who hangs on to things way long. I'm like, give me a sign. And then the sign comes and I'm like, well, are we sure that's a sign? Like, maybe I'll just like kind of slowly like fade out of this, like that Homer Simpson, like backing into the bushes thing, like really slow. I'm like, let's not just like drop this all, because what if, you know, it's still for me and I'm just, you know, so learning how to overcome that and really just trust yourself. Like, no, this doesn't feel good anymore. You know?
And it's funny because I'm normally a very indecisive person. Like I just am. I'm also anxious. I'm also stressed a lot. And I like go to like 4 different people before like making a decision sometimes, which is something I'm working on. But at the same time, when it came to that, it was just like, I couldn't listen to what anybody else was saying to me, because nobody else truly understood what it felt like to be operating that Instagram. You know,
Yeah.
nobody else did.
Right.
And like, it's the same thing with being a SoulCycle instructor. As much as I can like tell you how my body feels or how emotionally drained I am or mentally drained I am from a job that like, yes, you and I are sitting here talking in the middle of the day. It's incredible. We're not at work, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But like, you can't understand it unless you're in it, you know?
Right. Yeah. And being sympathetic towards other people in that same situation too, you know, I think a lot of people will ask for opinions from other people. It's like, you already know how you feel, but I'm not confident in myself to just make this decision. So let me go ask 10 people because I'm not really seeking advice. I'm just seeking for affirmation of what I want. Yeah. But I don't feel confident in making the decision on my own. So let me pull 10 people, and if 8 out of the 10 of them agree with me, like, then that's good enough, you know?
That's like me posting an Instagram picture. Yeah. Like I send in the group chat, and then like, so I have a group chat of like 3 other friends, and I'll send them a picture, which first of all, they all give me shit because they're like, Kallie, your new Instagram's supposed to be like you having fun. And I was like, I still want the picture to be good. Like, you guys are ridiculous.
Which picture?
I know. And then they're like, okay, I vote this one. They're like, but go ahead and pick the one that you already decided that you were doing. Like, it literally always happens.
Yeah. Why don't we do that? It's so funny. Everybody does it. I do it too, where it's just, you need a little bit of that. I don't even want to say it. I think it's separate than external validation or approval from others, but it's just like this little reassurance almost.
Yeah. I mean, because they're the ones that are seeing it. So like, you know, they'll be honest about how they would react to it. Like, it's silly, but we all do it.
Right. I have a friend, one of my best friends. I love her to death. But I have learned over our 20-year friendship that if you ask me, hey, like, I like this blue one. Do you like the blue or the red one? And if I'll say, oh, I like the red one because of X, Y, and Z, like, oh, yeah, this red one's really great. And then she'll be like, well, no, but like, you know, you see why the blue one's like better, right? Here's this long explanation of like why the blue one's better. I'm like, okay, so why don't you just tell me like, hey, I like this blue one? Like,
I know.
So now I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, blue's great. But that's her. That's what she wants. But it's funny that we do that. It gives us like this sense of security of like, okay, somebody else. At the same time, too, you know, trusting your gut and knowing what feels right. Yes, you go for that. But having people in your life, and it doesn't have to be a million people, but like a mentor, not even a coach. It can be just someone who you go to for advice who might be able to say, hey, you want to quit your teaching job? Yes. Do you have any money saved, or like, do you need benefits or, you know, X, Y, and Z, where it's, hey, let's help you devise a plan for this. So you don't, you know, leap before you look. I'm a leaper before I looker person.
I'm definitely, I'm definitely the type of person that's like seeking advice wherever I can. I didn't talk about her, but there actually was somebody who helped me when I was like leaving teaching and going into fitness. Mm-hmm. She's a big deal at Peloton now, but nice. She was a basketball player, and we connected over that because I used to play basketball. And then she was a teacher and principal, and then she went into the New York fitness scene. And at the time, we met through a mutual person at SoulCycle and via Instagram. And then she was like, we need to connect because like we're so similar. And she was so incredibly great. And I think it's just like having people in your corner who've like been there. It does change the game in anything that you do. Like, you know, you and I like trying to do like the entrepreneur thing, or, you know, making whatever, doing podcasts. Like, you got to just like use your resources. And I think connections are everything in life.
For
and
sure.
Like you said, yes, it is like the validation, but also like when you're taking advice from a trusted source, I think there's a little bit more weight to it than just like, please validate me that this is the right move for me. You know? Yeah,
I like what you said, a trusted source. So like if you are going for that affirmation, first of all, don't go for affirmation, because if it feels right for you, like nobody else is in your shoes. Nobody else knows your situation, but go to somebody who's going to be able to give you good sound advice on how to do that in a way that's going to set you up for success. Not, okay, that sounds good because I know you want to do it. Sure. Yeah. You know, or somebody who's going to say, no, you're crazy. And then now you're second guessing yourself just because they're a random
And that's
person.
why you can't ask too many people their opinions, which I've gotten myself in trouble with that too, because then you start thinking about the one person who thinks it's a bad idea or whatever, except for like the other 5 people who maybe know you a little bit better, who are telling you that it is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where trusting your gut and being decisive is usually good,
Right.
which I'm learning.
Yeah. It's definitely a learning curve. There's
Yeah.
always that like voice in the back of your head that's like, oh my gosh, like, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? And one thing I love, I read it in Tim Ferriss's The 4-Hour Work Week. I didn't even read the whole book. I think I made it to page 30 when this exercise comes up. It was when I was actually going through a divorce the same time, and I was miserable at my dental hygiene job. Like, wonderful team, wonderful boss. He's a great dentist. But I'm like, I am just not meant. I was not put. My soul is not going through all this shit that brought me here so I could, like, pick shit off of people's teeth my whole life. Like, that's just not my purpose,
Yeah.
It's just not it. And so one of my friends had sent me this book, The 4-Hour Work Week. He's like, I think you'll like this. And I read, it got to the part where it talks about the worst case scenario. It's like, what is the absolute worst case scenario? Of like, you paint this picture of your dream, right? What is your vision? What do you want to do? And at the time, I was actually teaching cycle for another company, and I wanted to become a master trainer and go around and train everybody and write a book. And it's like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how amazing would that be? Oh my God, it's a 10, hands down, right? Okay, in order for you to do this, what do you need to do? Okay, well, I would have to quit my dental hygiene job and live on my salary with this cycle company and dedicate time to writing, and et cetera, et cetera. Okay, worst case scenario, what happens? Well, dental, I was, again, very lucky in this situation. You can get a job anywhere. Like, it's so easy to get a dental hygiene job. So I'm like, okay, worst case scenario, I would just like grovel back to my old boss who would take me back in a hot second, or find a new job. And okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is that? And then I was like, honestly, it's a 2 if I'm being dramatic. And so he goes on and it ends with, well, why are you risking a 10 for a 2? And I literally read that and I quit my job the next day. I was like, my boss was like, what?
That's awesome. That's a great way to look at it too. And it's funny because I think we all do that in our heads, but we don't like, I don't know, like rationalize it that way. Because like when I thought about it, I was like, well, I can get a teaching job whenever I want. So like if I have to go back to teaching, I'll go back to teaching, like that's how it is. But so it makes making the the leap a little less scary. I love that. Like, why are you sacrificing a 10 for a 2? That's awesome. I'm gonna start telling people that.
Honestly,
I'm also like the biggest proponent for telling people to quit their job. Like some people like don't, I was like talking to one of my friends, like cousins a while ago, and he was like 20. And I was like, quit your job. I was like, just quit your job. And then she's like, what the hell? And I was like, well, like what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Like he goes and gets another one. Like, he was talking about like what his dream was. And I was like, you're so young. Just like make it happen. We're also like in this era of like millennial/Gen Z, like jobs are just not as traditional as they once were, which I think is so exciting and so amazing. And I just like, why are you wasting time in your precious life being so unhappy? Like I just had to ask myself that. And like my life changed significantly when I quit. Like, and like, I don't know if you felt this way, but when you quit like dental hygiene, if you just felt this huge weight lifted off of you, the second I sat down with my principal and was like, I am not returning next year, I literally left and was like the happiest I had been in so long. Yeah. Because I was like, I'm free. Like it was crazy.
Yes. And you literally do feel like yourself and just so light. And then that's not saying, oh my gosh, like, what do I do now? Like all those questions are still there. Yeah. But you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much energy was being sucked out of me doing the thing that was wrong for me. Honestly, the same pertained to my marriage. It was the same thing,
I'm sure.
But it's just, and it's funny because people are always like, oh my God, Meg, if you coach the whole world, everyone would be divorced and have no jobs. I'm like, no, that's just my situation. But
no, I think maybe they just wouldn't settle. I think that's like my Soul Cycle quote, which is so silly, but like I used to have it on like a necklace because I just like once I started really like walking the walk of all, or walking my talk. I don't know what the hell I'm saying, but you know what I mean. That I was really big on telling people like stop settling in your life. Like you see people settle all the time in like jobs, relationships, where they live, like all this stuff. And like you and I kind of talked about this before we came on here, and like with the cookie cutter part of life, it's just like there's no straight line for you or no direction that you actually have to follow. Like you can create that fork whenever you want to. And I feel like too many people are scared to do it because they are afraid of what people will think, or they, think that that's what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Because of society or some shit. Like I've been in a relationship for 10 years. We are not engaged yet. Do I get asked every day why? Yes, it's annoying. And also like I'm 31 years old, not married, don't have kids. Like, when I was 16, I thought by 24 I'd be married with children.
Right. With
and I'm so
two
fucking
kids and a
glad I'm
dog.
not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's just like, I don't know. I don't know if it's selfish or what it is, but I just think you have to live your life for you.
Yeah.
And if you are looking for a partner, you have to find somebody who's going to compliment you and like make you better and grow with you. That's why I'm fortunate that like the person I'm with, like we've endured 10 years because we've been willing to challenge each other and grow together.
Yeah.
But like you said, like if that's not for you, like, don't settle for that. You know?
Right. And I think
that was, oh my God, my soapbox. Let me come off that.
I love that. No, let's stay on it. I'm coming up too. I think I love what you said about, millennials and Gen Z, where I think Gen Z's eyes are open a lot more to opportunities and kind of like being opportunist in that. But millennials, at least what I see in coaching, there's like this hard kind of spot of like, oh my gosh, I see this light at the end of the tunnel, but I don't trust it because like the young kids are doing it and they're like, wait, how are you a millionaire and you're 25? Or how are you like going to Thailand for 3 months and you're 22?
Literally.
It just doesn't make sense because there's still this fear-based, you have to work for 40 years. You need insurance. You need this. You need a 401k. This traditional approach to work. So here we are, millennials, we've been working for 10, 15 years. And it's like, ugh, I don't like this. Like you teaching, you're like, these people are miserable and they're 20 years older than you. You're like, that is literally me in 20 years. I'm going to be miserable. And if you were to look at the exact trajectory of your life where you had, like, nothing was going to change with you teaching, like, nothing's going to change with your job, that is literally the trajectory. You look at people who are 20 years older than you and miserable, and you're like, that's going to be me unless something changes.
You change them, yeah.
And being open-minded to, hey, guess what? When I told my parents that I cycle for a living, they're like, what are you talking about? And then I'm like, I'm a life coach. And they're like, what is that? you know? And just being okay with, hey, this is right for me. So let's just take one small step because, and this is my soapbox, I guess, but going back to the whole like worst case scenario thing, hey, worst case scenario, you quit your teaching job, and you go to SoulCycle, it doesn't work out. Worst case scenario, what do? You get a teaching job. Had you never made that leap, you would be living your worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Like, why are you just willing to just live your worst case scenario?
Yeah. It's so true. I love that so much. It's so good. It's funny. My boyfriend's mom actually, like when I was like really trying to like figure out what I was doing with SoulCycle and all this stuff, we're still in the age, like I'm a millennial, you're a millennial. And, it was like, go to college, like go to high school, go to college, graduate, get a job in your degree. Like the whole, like what Gen Z is doing now, they're like, I'm going to take a year off and I'm going to travel. And I'm like, first of all, how? But secondly, like good for you.
Right.
And, but you said their eyes are so just more open to opportunity and living a non-traditional life. Like when I had to tell my parents, like, yeah, so this is completely not traditional. Like I am going to be living in a city, which like I'm from like literally a farm town, like whatever. And I'm going to be doing this job random hours. I'm going to be working on the weekends. Like I'm going to be working on holidays. Like it's like this whole thing. But I don't know. It's so funny. What did you just say? You just said something that like sparked me wanting to talk about Gen Z. Where were you just? Oh my God, no.
Okay, let's backtrack. Oh my gosh. You know what? I think you're an Enneagram 6 is the, because you have a wing 7 and I'm a 7 and we like live in the tangents, but then sometimes we can't remember how to get back.
Yeah.
Let's see. Gen Z. Like,
oh my gosh.
They're just like opportunists. Like they are, I guess, not really blinded by this traditional approach to like work.
Right.
I guess like
I forget. It might come back to me if it does.
If it does, it was meant to be on the podcast. If not, we'll have to do a second one. But
I'm down. Oh, gosh, I don't remember what it was, but it was something about people just living a non-traditional life. I don't know.
I guess that's like the norm, And And granted, there's a lot of things that weren't there 15 years ago, right? Remote jobs, internet access. I'm telling you, like, I had dial-up internet it was like Juno.com or something, like Juno, where it would be like the little, like, you know, and you couldn't be on the phone when somebody was on the internet. It was like ridiculous.
Gosh,
but
that noise triggering.
I know, right? Is it too soon? Oof.
No, no.
But things are different now. It's like, don't get trapped in that mindset of limitation when the limits, like Mean Girls, the limit does not exist, you know?
Yes. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I don't know. I lost it, but it's really interesting. And like you and I are doing it, which I think is really cool. Sometimes like I don't give myself enough credit for like the decisions that I made. I'm sure you're the same exact way, just because like you're always just like, okay, what's the next thing? Or whatever. But like, I just think there's just so many opportunities now. And I feel like the world is starting to understand that. Like my dad, who's like so traditional and like in his 60s, like he's like working remote now from home like a few times because the pandemic forced people to realize like that actually is doable. Yeah. And like is honestly like kind of way better for everybody's like mental and just personal everything. I don't know. I just think non-traditional is kind of like the norm now.
The new norm.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah. I think, you know, so we'll kind of go into this entrepreneurial journey that you're on. Kind of like the next thing. It's like, hey, like, Soul Cycle is like under wraps. Like you got that. But like now, like, hey, kind of like what's next? Because I know a lot of people, I get honestly probably one inquiry like a day that's like, hey, like, what do you think about this idea? And it's a candle, you know, special candles that they're doing, or like this crazy gym idea, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, how do you take that leap? Like, what did, you know, like, people are like, I don't know, I've never done this before. So there's so much beauty in not ever doing something before. Like you're doing something that you've never done before.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I'll give like a really quick, should I like run it down?
Yeah, give us a rundown.
So basically last year I became, I think, I don't know what Enneagram this is, but I definitely have like obsessive personality. Like I want to be on Survivor. Like it's like my thing. And I like, because I became obsessed with watching Survivor and I was like, I'm going to be on the show.
Is that on still? It's
like
Survivor.
It's crazy.
46.
It's been on for like 20 some years. 43 just ended. It's insane.
Oh my gosh, I was pretty close. Wow, I said 46.
Yeah, you are close. Maybe I'll be on 46.
Yeah, there you go. You can be group 46.
Maybe that's why you said it.
I know, maybe. We'll put it out there.
Like, timing wise, it could. So anyways, obsessive personality. So I started watching F1 last year, the show on Netflix, Drive to Survive, and immediately was in. And I was like, oh wow, like hot dudes, cars, like it's like a very sophisticated, like rich sport. It's like so interesting to me.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not like shitting on NASCAR, but like I grew up thinking like those guys aren't athletes, which I think they are now, I've learned. But F1's just like very interesting. So I became obsessed with it, wanted to like rock the teams and like the drivers that I loved. And I would go online and everything was so fugly and like loud, and also just picture like big Red Bull signs and like logos and Ferrari.
Yeah, I'm picturing like the side of the car, but on a shirt.
Pretty much. And like, and I get it. Like if that's the shirt you want to wear, that's great. But like we're in the era of like very trendy and minimal like clothes, or just trendy sayings. I don't know, bubble letters on stuff, trucker hats, all that stuff. And I kept thinking like all last year, like I bought a Ferrari hat and I wore it somewhere and I got shit on by like 10 people I know. They're like, do you drive a Ferrari? And I literally was like, because I like the F1 team. And then I was like, well, I'm never wearing that hat again. And even though I do love it because it's corduroy.
I'm like getting flashbacks of that one Friends episode with Joey in the Porsche. Did you ever watch Friends?
Yes.
It's like the Porsche.
Yeah. But I wasn't trying to claim that I drove a Ferrari. So anyways, so I started thinking, and I was talking to my boyfriend, and I was like, I just see all these things in my head of like what I would want to wear, but it doesn't exist anywhere. And I was like, what if I just created? He was like, you should just like make a few things, like see how people respond, and then like go from there. Which that idea then turned into me like literally creating a brand. And because my whole idea was like, I wanted to create like stuff that people would wear if they liked F1, but that they would also wear even if they didn't care about F1 because it just like looked cool.
Yes.
Like, you know how like Siegelman stable hats, do you know what I'm talking about? Like everybody's wearing them right now. Everybody wants them literally just because they're cool. And that's like kind of what I wanted. So then I approached a friend, another girlfriend who like really likes F1 too. And she's like trendy. She's a little younger than me. And I felt like she'd be a good person to like bounce ideas off of and like be in it. And she hates her job too. Not that I hate my job, but like she's similar to someone
she's just ready for something else too.
She wants to change. Yeah. So I approached her and I was like, hey, like this is my idea. Would you want to do it? And she was like, game. So now we have a brand. It's called Sunday Avenue. I wore the hat literally on purpose.
Yes.
This
Shameless
is a sample.
plug. Love it.
I
was literally admiring your hat earlier. And now I love it even more knowing it's yours.
I just didn't say anything. So yeah, so Paddock is like where do you know anything about
F1? It's in Austin.
They do have a Grand Prix in Austin, which I want to go to so bad.
And that's about it.
Yeah. Okay.
And cars.
Cars, fast cars. So Paddock is like where like all the cars are like kind of where the garage is. And like if you have a Paddock pass, like you have a lot of money. So we wanted to make like something that was like trendy. So this says like Paddock Social Club. But like if you saw someone wearing this hat on the street, my whole idea was like me as an F1 fan, I'd be like, where is that hat from? But somebody who's just like a Siegelman stable type person be like, well, I just want to wear that hat because it looks cool. You know? So it's called Sunday Avenue. We are launching, I believe, in February. We're like really on the
so exciting
stages.
Yeah, awesome.
So sorry, that's like there's my sales pitch.
Yeah.
And
give us that website later. Sunday Avenue.
I know. It's sundayavenue.co.
Perfect.
.co. And all of our social media will be Sunday Avenue Co, even though it's just because Sunday Avenue is taken, unfortunately. But we're getting a trademark, so nobody come for me.
Right. By the time this episode comes out, everything will already be in the bag. So
okay,
you're good.
Perfect. That's so exciting. So, but the whole idea is that like we want to create Sunday Avenue merch, which I know sounds silly because like everybody, like there's set active, there's all these things that are making like athleisure, sweatshirts, whatever. But like we're like, if we get in with the right people, the right niche to start with, especially F1, like that's the dream. And I just like didn't realize until last year. Sorry, this is a very long-winded answer, but
I love it.
SoulCycle, I don't know if they ever made it to Houston with this, but they were doing retail collections for each market.
Yes, we had a short stint with that.
So they came back with some ideas that people did not like, and I took it upon myself to like be like, I'm going to design everything.
Yeah, there was a bucket hat situation that I just can't unsee.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah. So we did get a trucker hat here that I was happy about. It's not exactly what I wanted, but it's fine. So they did change a few things, but like I sat down for like 4 days and like came up with like multiple sweatshirt ideas, legging ideas, like hats, like sweatpants. And I like was thriving. I was so happy being so creative. And then that kind of answered that where I was like, okay, I need to do this for like the F1 stuff.
See, and allowing it to evolve. Like you start doing something like, hey, what are you like? Start here. Like, what are you passionate about?
Yeah.
What are you good at?
Yeah.
2 things. Okay, great. Start there. And then you can evolve it into whatever. But that's a great starting point for somebody.
And not that I'm like a graphic designer by any means or that I'll be able to like design our stuff forever. But yeah, I don't know. I'm so excited. And like, there's a very untapped market for it right now. Like, for example, like I got on and couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
And then like F1, like is only going to get bigger in the US because like now they're having a race in Vegas and like Brad Pitt's about to be in like a movie about it. So like, it's like this whole thing.
I'm in.
But
I mean, you had me at Brad Pitt.
Yes, I love that. So I don't know, but it's so funny because never in a million years did I think like, I'm going to be starting like a clothing brand. I don't even know if I'd call it a clothing brand. I guess it is a clothing brand, but an apparel brand.
Yeah.
Never did I think that would be a journey for me. Never did I think I'd think it was so fun and thrilling. But like, it's one of those things where like I get home from teaching a class at SoulCycle that I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm hungry. And like, I'm excited to get on my computer and like figure out more stuff for the brand. Like, and that's just the type of person I am. And I don't know if it's just because like I need to switch up every few years in my life or what it is, but it's one of those things where I just didn't even question it. I was like, this makes me happy. Let's fucking go. And her and I are just, you know, pouring a lot of money into it right now, but hopefully there's, you know, a payoff. But what I would be so upset. It's kind of like what we were saying, like worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. We eat some money and we move on.
Right.
But say somebody else started doing this and I started buying from them, I'd be like, I could have done that better.
Yeah.
Or,
ooh, that's good advice for somebody. What can you do that you would be upset that somebody else did because you didn't?
right. I mean, oh my gosh, like think about so many opportunities that are put in front of your face that you like are like, I'm going to stay in the safe, the safe box. Like I think about like literally Peloton sometimes because like they weren't like, just like this huge, crazy whatever until the pandemic. But think about somebody who like, could have stayed wherever they were and then they made that switch and then they just like trusted it and built with it. Like you just never know what could happen.
Right.
And that's kind of how I feel. I'm like, yeah, worst case scenario doesn't work out. Best case scenario, we make some sales and it's great. Like even dream scenario, people in the paddock start wearing this and then people are like, where did you get that? Like,
yeah.
But you just never know. And I would have been so mad if we didn't do it and A, other people started doing it, or B, I'd be sitting back being like, I wonder what would have happened if I ever like tried to do that. Because like so far, like feedback's been pretty good and exciting. So you just got to hit that right like you just never know when something's going to like take off. It's kind of like these TikTok stars that, they always are like, post every video you want to post because like one could go viral and change your entire life. And like, man, that is true.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with like the leap of faith that you have to take in your life. Like that one decision you make could like literally change your life. Like me wanting to become a SoulCycle instructor led me to, so many friends, like my best friend of my whole life now, I met at SoulCycle, which is crazy because like making adult friends is like we could have a whole
honestly, I don't have any adult friends that I have not met at SoulCycle.
It's true. It's true. And like I have so many relationships because of that place. Like I worked my ass off to get senior instructor this past year. And like that was my goal. Thank you.
Awesome.
That was my goal from day one. And it's just like, you just never know where you would be if you like didn't put in the work and like try.
Yeah.
God, I sound so preachy, but
I feel like this, I feel like I catch myself all the time saying things that could be on a middle school gym poster.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and but
sick.
they're so cliche and overdone, but they're so true. Right. And
cliches are cliches for a reason.
Right. They stuck around. And I think, a lot of people are fear-based. And when you look back and say, what best case scenario, worst case scenario, okay, how workable is the worst case scenario and how likely is it actually to happen? And just kind of, I'm not saying get rid of the fear. I'm just saying shift it because honestly, I think, and maybe this is like the sporadic, like spontaneity, chaoticness that has brought me to this point. But if you're going to fear anything, fear regret.
Yeah. Fear not doing it. I totally agree with you. And that's how I felt when I left teaching too. I was like, think about what I'm going to feel like if I continue to do this and feel this way, like worst case scenario. And I worst case scenario everything in my life. So this is so funny.
I think you're an Enneagram 6.
I might be, I've taken that a few times, but I think I get something different every time because I probably
I'll send you my test. I'm like, I'm just kidding. I love 6s. They're great.
And that, what you just said, I wanted to share this quote. I don't know if it's like her quote. I doubt that it is, but her name's Jara. She used to be a SoulCycle instructor.
I love her. Jara.Bean. She's
Jara Bean. Have you had her on the pod?
No, but that is a great. Ooh, I'm gonna reach out to her today.
Now.
Yes,
she's amazing.
I know. I love her. Oh, she would be great on the pod. Good idea.
So I met Jara through BBG. So Jara and I like knew each other way before she started SoulCycle, before I started SoulCycle. So when I was in training, like I took Jara a lot. Anyways, Jara has always said this thing. At least I think of her when I hear it. It's sorry, let me start it first. It sounds good. Feel the fear and do it anyways.
Feel the fear and do it anyways. Ooh, yeah.
It's like what you just said. It's like, you're in the fear base. Like you can't get rid of the fear, but you have to like set it aside. So she just always used to say that like feel the fear and do it anyways.
Yeah.
Because it's always going to be there no matter what you do.
Yeah.
The fear of not doing something, the fear of regretting something, or the fear of like, what if? Like it's always going to be there. So you just have to do it anyways.
Right. I have goosebumps right now. I'm like, but that's so true. It's like, do it anyway, right? The action part of do it anyway. right? What is the absolute worst case scenario? Like, what is, honestly, the worst case scenario to me is like the regret of never knowing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
like 9 times out of 10, you don't get back to the worst case scenario. Cause like right now someone says to me, like, would you ever go back to teaching? And I'm like, absolutely not. I would figure something else out before I got back to my worst case scenario, which I think people also need to realize. Like, there's a lot of steps you will take to make sure that never happens.
Yeah. You know? And a lot of options, you know?
Yeah.
Because of the non-traditional, you know, work experience that's out there. There's literally just so many things that you can do that isn't the thing that you fucking hate to do, that you think you are are trapped into doing forever. Right. And a lot of people, I think too, will be like, oh, I've done this for so long, it's too late to turn around. And it's like, okay, just because you've been miserable for, you know, 5, 10, 15 years, does that mean that you should be miserable for the next 5, 10, 15, you know, 20, 40, 50 years?
Yeah. Like, and I think because we're people on the other side of that, like, misery, we can be like, don't keep doing that, you know? And I think it's a lot harder for people who sit in it to like, just be like, well, this is my life. And it's like, well, it doesn't have to be. So
yeah, I think, you know, you made a good point of, you know, what can I do that I'm passionate about, right? You talked about that first, like, what am I passionate about? Okay, make a list of things. What do I not want to do, right? Because that's like, it's funneling down to get the answer that you want. What do I not want to do? Okay, don't want to do this. I sure as hell don't want to do what I'm doing right now, right? Okay, don't want to do this. Let's narrow it down, get a little clarity around it. What do people come to me for? What am I naturally good at? Where is the need in the market for? You know, what doesn't exist yet? Be a trailblazer, right? What doesn't exist yet that people would benefit from? You know, your clothing line. Like, I want to wear cute stuff, not really ugly stuff, and get called out for not driving a Ferrari, you know? And kind of start there with, you know, figuring out, at least give you a little bit of direction on to what path to go down. Find a mentor, somebody to give you advice who you're not going for just affirmation to, you know. You want their actual sound advice and they can help you, you know. I mean, I'm launching a merch line. I'm not going to say I'm dropping this fashion line because it's literally like clothing line that says expect good things. That's it, because it's kind of my thing.
I love that.
But I don't know anything about fashion. I don't know anything about production. And it's like, who does, right? Go to those people who that's
the life I'm living right now. It's crazy.
Who can help me?
You just figure it out. Like, it's overwhelming, but you just figure it out sometimes, you know?
Yeah, you either figure it out or you don't, and you stay where you are forever and end up regretting, oh my gosh, I could have done that, you know, a couple years ago, but I didn't, so somebody else, you know. My grandfather actually used to say that. He's like, I had the idea of bottled water like years ago before I have no idea when bottled water came out, but he claims that he was the original like idea man behind bottled water. He was like, awesome. I could have been so like wealthy and successful if I had just done it. So
you should have done it.
Yeah. Sorry. Should have done it. But the good news is for everybody who's listening, you can still do it, you know? So if you, I don't know, do you have any like final words of advice or wisdom or, you know, if someone's on that, like think back to, okay, I'm about to quit my teaching job, but I'm really scared right now. And I don't know what's like exactly how this is going to plan out. Like, what would you have wanted? Like, what would you tell yourself in that moment or wanted to hear?
You know, I'm going to steal a little bit of what you said because it's definitely resonating with me right now. And I think it's probably how I was making a lot of decisions back then, which is like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You know? And I used to say that all the time. Like, what is the worst thing that's, oh my God, the thing came back to me.
Oh, yay. Okay. This is amazing. I love it.
It's like sort of related, but
even if it's not, it's meant to be in this podcast at this moment.
I said something about how, I don't think I finished this thought. It was about how we were like, oh, millennials, we go to college, we do all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. That's like where I was following it. And I'll never forget that my boyfriend's mom used to be like, all you needed to do with college, because like, you know, a lot of people still need to go to college based on like some jobs you need to get.
Yeah, if you want to be a doctor, you do have to go to college.
She's like, you got the piece of paper. It's literally all she used to say to me. She'd be like, you got the piece of paper. That's all you need. She was like, you literally have a degree. A lot of people don't do anything in the degrees that they have, and they don't do jobs that they have degrees in.
Yeah.
And she used to always just say to me, like, you got your piece of paper. Like, who cares what your next step is after teaching? Like, you did it. You got your degree. You did what. So that's like something that I was like trying to get to with the Gen Z or Gen Z are the people that are going through college now. Yeah. Is just like, get it done if that's what you need to do, or if that's the path for you, or that's what your family is like pressuring you to do, and then move on. Anyways, I don't know why, but
and then you can also, you know, take small steps, like whether you're finishing college or you realize you want to leave a 9-to-5 job. And you can't do it right away. Like, okay, I'm a college junior and I have one semester left, or senior. Okay, at this point, like, just finish it, right?
Finish it, yeah.
Or I want to quit my job, but I don't have any money saved up and no plan. Okay, so you can stay in your job, but still work the plan, like one step at a time. And then, hey, 3 months, 6 months, a year down the road, maybe you'll be ready, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know. I
love that. I love that it came back just in time too.
So what I would say is like, you have like, what is the worst thing that's going to happen? Because you don't want to regret the life that you're living for forever. And like, you just have to take a look around and think about your happiness. I think a lot of decisions that I've made in the past, like 10 years have came down to my happiness. And that's what life's about. Like, it's just not about pleasing society. It's not about pleasing your family. It's about living a life that you feel passionate about, that you love, and that makes you happy. And at the end of the day, if you're scared, everybody's scared. Yeah. Do it anyway. Like, literally do it anyway. Like, anybody is just like, I really want to quit my job. This is the other thing I always want to tell people, which we already touched on. Like, if you want it bad enough, or you want to be out of your situation bad enough, and you like, if you don't know what the thing is that you want, but you know what you don't want, you will figure it out. Like, I just trust that, like, you will figure it out. Like,
trust is a big one.
Yeah, you got to trust your gut, and you just got to know, like, I knew teaching wasn't right for me, and I'm so happy. And like, I still say, like, I'm a teacher just in a different setting. Like, I think teaching was meant for me in a way, just not in a classroom with a bunch of 10-year-olds.
Right.
So a traditional way of life was not for me. But sorry, that's a really long-winded answer, but literally do it anyway.
And life is meant for living.
Yeah, you don't, LIVIN, you don't want, like, there's your Texas for you.
I'm living apostrophe. I'm just going to say I'm not from here.
It feels funny to just be like, do it. Because there's a lot of things you have to think about before you do it. But you're always going to wonder, what if I did that? And you don't want to wonder that.
Yeah,
you know?
Right. If you have a desire for something, there's a way to achieve it, right? Yeah. Desire actually means from God or from higher power, from sire, right? Father, whatever. God.
I wish I could have wrapped that up with like a bow, but it was like just a very long run on.
No, I love it because I just love tangents so much. That's where like all the juice happens. That's why I never have the set list of questions in my podcast.
Yeah. That's good.
I'm always it's an organic conversation, and some people are like, oh my gosh, like you have to give me like questions. Like,
but
what are you
that's
gonna
what
ask?
Makes you a good podcast host. Like, I think that's like, if you have a guide, sure, but like I think I like having a conversation much more.
Yeah, it's just like I call them conscious conversations because you just never know what like this list of 7 questions is gonna ask you. And some people are like, oh my God, you just asked me a question that wasn't on the sheet. And I'm like, just go with it, you know? Yeah. And then it ends up being a beautiful conversation. I'm glad
because then it happens more organically. Like, I wasn't sitting here preparing. I wasn't prepared for anything you asked. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate that because I literally just threw these at you. I'm like, what advice would you give your previous self? And it's like, I don't know. Like, but it's real. It's real advice. Yeah. It's just like, don't, like, I remember reading that book and that feeling. And it's so funny because a friend, I talked to him, I don't know, we're still friends, years later. And I was like, you know, like you sent me the book.
Yeah.
And I quit my job the next day. He's like, okay, you're crazy. And I'm glad it worked out for you. Yeah. But had you told me that like in the moment, I would have told you like, don't do that. Yeah. But it worked out. It worked out for me.
Speaking of books, I'm going to say this really quick before we wrap up. Before I quit, read the book You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero.
Love that book. I want her to be on the pod too.
And I was like, oh I am a badass and I deserve more. I read that book, and then The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck is like one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life. And then also, I'm like a big basketball fan. Tim Grover has a book. Do you know who Tim Grover is? He was
maybe.
Michael and Kobe's trainer.
Okay, got it.
He has a book he has 2 books, but he has a book called Winning that if you're an athlete or you have an athlete's mindset, I think it's worth reading because it's like basically his tools to how to win in life.
Nice.
But it's I will not read that. Ranked. It's very good. And it's interesting too because he like tells stories about like working with Kobe and Michael and stuff. But I love like self-help books and motivational books, but like I really try to be somebody who doesn't just like depend on them. I like them for motivation, but I don't like them to just be like, well, I'm reading a new book today and it's going to change my life. Like that's not realistic.
No, take your little nuggets and like put them to use, you know?
But yeah, if you need a little push and people in your life aren't pushing you and you can't find it for yourself, like You Are a Badass is a great book if you're trying to.
And you probably need different people in your life. Just saying. You know, like honestly, the books are great. Yeah. But if you're like, oh my God, because I love that book. And I walk away, you're like, I'm a badass. But then if you're surrounded by people who are like, you suck. Then you're not that feeling's going to wear off. Yeah. So I think, you know, having a circle of people who are going to support you, even if like, they're like, I don't know if this is the best idea, but I'm here to support you. You know, like if you're like gung ho on, I'm going to be a SoulCycle instructor and quit my job and we ride bikes that go nowhere and I don't know if I'm going to get it. Like you need people in your corner who are like, you got this.
Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate to have that, which I'm sure you do too.
Yeah. But honestly, it came with removing a lot of people who weren't like that. So, you know, if you got a dream, you know, share it with people who are going to support you and help you, you know, not just tear down. Because a lot of times people will tear your dream down just because they're miserable. Yeah. And that's where looking for this affirmation from people might like bite you in the ass because you don't know where they're coming from in their lens. So really just trust yourself, feel the fear. Fear is not an indicator to stop. It's an indicator that something is about to change, and that's okay. You know,
being afraid is good because it means that you care, and it means I think it's from Grey's Anatomy. It's like being good's afraid because you have something to lose. You know, it's better to have something to lose than to not have anything.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I was never afraid to go in and clean people's teeth for 10 hours a day.
Yeah,
I hated it, but it was never like, oh my gosh, what if I lose this?
But the fear of change is natural and normal, and it probably, if it scares you, it's probably meant for you, I think. Yeah.
Like that. Your dreams should scare you.
They should. They really should because they're big, you know?
Yeah.
And
awesome. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for this conscious conversation. This was awesome having you on, and I'm just so excited for Sunday Avenue to just take off and anything I can do to support, we'll definitely do.
Thank you.
And okay, so if people love you, where can they find you? Where can I get my paddock club?
Yeah.
You know, I want to at least like walk around Austin and like at least look like
I got
go
you.
To F1.
So Instagram, since if you type in my name, my bigger Instagram will definitely come up. I am Kallie X House. So just sharing like more personal stuff. So love Instagram still. And then for Sunday Avenue, we'll just be Sunday Avenue Co. across the board, TikTok, Instagram, and then sundayavenue.co. And like I said, when will this episode come out? Do you know?
Like mid-February-ish. So maybe
so we'll be
launched.
Launching around then. We're just like our first drop has like 5 things in it. And we're really excited about it. So if you know anybody who likes F1, holler. If you just like trendy looking stuff, we have options for you too. Yeah.
If you're not watching the visual of this, go to YouTube. My freshly launched YouTube channel. Check it out. Kallie's adorable. And I'll be posting like TikToks and all that stuff too. But yeah, I love this hat. Like I'm not a hat person, which is why my hair is red. So it just something happens to me when I wear a hat. I don't know what it is. People will look. Like, they're like, I don't know what happens, but you are just not a hat person.
I used to not think, I mean, I've always kind of worn hats, but like hats are just so in right now. So we're like really, you know, jumping on that. So like we have this one that's like the white and green one, and then we have a trucker hat.
Yeah.
Because trucker hats are so in now too.
I could maybe do a trucker hat.
Yeah, the trucker hat's black. So
okay, yeah, I love a good.
Like,
I'm actually wearing green today because I didn't want to blend into my background.
Green.
I know, it's a lucky day. I'm like, is it March? Was it St. Patrick's Day?
Thank God, no.
Yes.
I was like, I don't need it to be March already.
No, it's crazy that January is almost done. It's nutty. But this hat would be perfect for like a St. Patrick's Day look.
It would be. It would be.
But,
yes.
Yeah, if you come out with anything, I'm happy to support anything that's not a hat, Crocs, or Birkenstocks. Those are the 3 things that just make me look like an alien on this earth. I'm like, I don't know. I wish I could rock them. I just can't. But
that's so funny.
But yes, we will support you. And
Appreciate
so definitely check that out, Sundeco. And I'm going to list all the tags in the bio so you can click on all those too to easily find you. And good news, I'll actually be in DC in a couple of months. One of my best friends lives there.
Yeah.
And I will definitely be popping into your class.
Yes, let me know. Just text me.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will. My gosh. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, check her out. And I guess, I'll go into our last little finisher. We'll see if you rehearsed your lines or not.
I know.
Did you write it down on a Post-it?
Okay, got it.
I got it. So if we could leave you with just one thing, it would be this. Expect good things.
Oh, I didn't know.
Wait, do you want the dramatic pause?
I don't know. Do you do the dramatic pause?
You know what? How about you say it first and then, you say it first. How would you say it?
I was just going to say it off expect good things always and they will happen. Yeah,
boom. Expect good things always and they will happen. I like it. I'm always here to evolve. I do like the dramatic pause every now and again, but no, I like it. So that's what we got for you today. Check her out. Check out Kallie. If you are in DC, you have to ride with her. She's amazing. Senior instructor at SoulCycle, entrepreneur extraordinaire. And we just can't wait to see where you go. And we'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you so much for having me and everybody who listened. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.